Hello and welcome to this first attempt or first little attempt at a podcast format called Drone Making at TRS. And today in this first podcast I will try to give an idea like what is this, where am I coming from, what in the hell is TRS, and what's holding all of this together, right? What do I want? What do I want with this? Why am I making this? Now to put it in a nutshell, very basically, I'm currently writing my PhD thesis, and I'm doing a lot of research, as you can imagine. And all of the research is basically like kind of circles around the topic of drone making practices, drone making spaces, moving in between drone making spaces. And all of that obviously sounds very cryptic. So just in a nutshell, what is it about? It's about people who build drones like these flying little things, and I do focus on like flying drones. I know there are like non-flying drones too, but I focus on the flying drones for all intents and purposes, and also like associated technology. So for example, like this whole flying car discourse and everything, like that's all within the realm of my research. So like when I say in between drone making spaces, what's up with that? So the idea was, or rather that's an empirically informed observation rather, is that people, or rather communities of drone making, first and foremost exist in a variety. So there's not just one community of people making drones, there's not like one huge group of people making drones, but instead I observed that people building drones, or again making drones, making as testing, flying, conceptualizing, whatever, they refer to very distinct resources and very distinct practices when they engage in this process, when they actually make drones, when they like think up like what a drone could be, or how they see a drone, how they see a possible application for the drone, or whatever. So this is the fundamental observation, that there is an enormous heterogeneity between these spaces. For example, between, let's say, an established aerospace company that gets into like drone or flying car making. For example, I could name Airbus as an example. Or on the other hand, like a little, just some backyard tinker, or someone who just likes to build drones, likes to fly drones, likes to crash them, maybe even, some just do-it-yourself inspired guy, I guess. So, and as you can probably imagine, these two, like let's say on the one hand this do-it-yourself guy, on the other hand this large established aerospace corporation, they have very different methods of doing stuff, of doing drones. Whereas, for example, on the hand of the tinkerer, of the do-it-yourself kind of guy, it's all about testing, and it's all about like just trying to make it fly, and then to crash it, and then build it again, and crash it again, and build it, and make it better, and be in this whole like very hands-on and very dirty process, in a way dirty in terms of like getting your hands dirty, really getting in there. On the other hand, you have like, for example, established aerospace companies. At least to me it appears that they are very much more distanced, and more, they focus more on legislation, and can we get this to conform to standards, and can we do all of this, and like in the time that it would have taken the more do-it-yourself guy to already be flying, for example, a larger corporation might still be like in the first steps, and might not even like have conducted first tests, because who knows, if we fly it like that, there could be an issue down the line, and all of that, right? So this is like, and obviously these are just two examples, but I think you get my point, that there are very different expectations and very different ways of making drones, of doing drones in the first place. And now you could describe that as I just did. You could say, well, here are these practices, here are those practices, and then you could be like, yeah, well, so next topic, whatever. But I believe that there is more to that, and this is exactly where this in-between comes in, because I mentioned like in-between drone making spaces, and I already like kind of outlined like drone making spaces, the spatial approach. The idea there is that you have infrastructure, you have like practices, you have like the legislature, you have the company structure, you have all of these aspects that come together to create a very distinct and very special and very unique kind of environment. And instead of environment, I just use the term space. So if you, for example, if you contrast on the one case, again, the more aerospace classical drone making space with the more do-it-yourself inspired drone making space that I outlined, um, you might describe them. You might say, well, okay, this is the way it is. But you might also say, well, okay, like, what are the issues? What are the issues that are being faced in, for example, like the more professional context, and how do they tackle the challenges? Again, descriptive, but in a next step, more analytically speaking, how could we employ or how could we bring together a variety of these spaces, these imaginary spaces, to overcome these problems? For example, like if, let's say, if we have again a large corporation and they encounter a specific problem, they obviously, given their, like, the space they inhabit, they would approach a given topic, a given challenge from a very specific angle and from a very particular point of view. And maybe, and again, this is the idea, bringing in, for example, a more do-it-yourself inspired or more tinkery-ish kind of perspective might just help. And it might just help to break these barriers and to know you to get an innovative movement going and to kind of, push stuff forward. And this is what my research is about. It's about enabling in a way, but enabling through conflict. Like in conflict, I don't mean conflict like hitting another person over the head, even though that might be included, but I mean it more in a way of, like you're so set in your ways maybe of making drones the way you do them, and you don't even see beyond those ways, that if you encounter a different way of how people build drones, make drones, test drones, whatever, it might hurt to an extent because it's so outside of what you usually do, and it might lead you to question if the ways you're doing it are you're doing what you're doing is right. And this is exactly what I'm about. It is exactly about this questioning and about this thinking, this like going beyond one's own drone making space and moving in between and bringing together like maybe compatible or maybe even not compatible, like looking explicitly for non-compatible spaces to bring together just to see what this intersection could bring. And I know right about now this is very abstract, basically what I'm saying. So I'll give you an example, and I give you one of the major examples actually, which I think you might just have spotted yourself already. Going back to the beginning, I referred to like drone making spaces, for example, on YouTube, and I mentioned that it's about fun. I mentioned that it's about this motivation of just doing yourself, this kind of do-it-yourself mentality, this, cool, it's flying, it's fun, this motivation, this very basic in terms of why you would approach it, for the reason. It's not connected to a huge argumentative structure, like, you would need drones because they are efficient and they are, they can do this and they are fast and whatever, right? It doesn't need that. Like, the motivation to build a drone, for example, to build a racing drone or to build a freestyle drone, for example, the motivation is to say, that's fun. I want to do that, not because it's like whatever efficient. I don't care about that. I want it to be fun, right? I wanted to have a good time. I wanted to go outside and have a great day and fly it with friends maybe, and maybe crash it together or whatever, right? Just have a good time. So if we look at that, and if we look at how great of a motivation fun can be, or the amusement of the drone, you could say, then I wonder why, if we look at the more commercial side of PAVs, so personal aerial vehicles, that's this whole like flying cars kind of thing, you gotta wonder why it's so sterile in a way. So and I know this is a generalization, but I want you to kind of make the point, is the idea is that if you ever looked at a commercial, like for example, again, Airbus, and I'm not just hitting on Airbus here, but they're just rather big, so they are kind of an easy target to pick. So if you look at their like commercials or their visions of what a future with flying cars might look like, or if you look at Uber or whatever, there are numerous out there. Lilium is another example. EHang is another example. Like, all of these examples are out there, but like one thing they all have in common, or maybe not all, but very many of them have in common, that is, if you look at their commercials or the way they present their product, it's always super rational. It's always, again, referring back to the previous example, it's always, oh, it's so efficient, you won't have any traffic jams with this, it's gonna be fast, it's gonna be safe, it's gonna be comfortable, and like there's not, or even it's gonna be autonomous, that's another big one. And there isn't necessarily anything wrong with that, not at all. I mean, those are like great things, right? And I agree, but there is one thing that I find lacking, and that's, what about the fun, man? What about just wanting to fly? What about the idea of maybe having your own flying car? And it's kind of like, I don't know if that's gonna happen, but like just the idea of having like this thing out there is maybe even beautiful, maybe not, because again, I'm not trying to like make fun of Airbus exclusively, but most of the times they aren't particularly beautiful designs. And like, I mean, fair enough, like form follows function, okay, fair enough, but like it kind of sets these products up in a way that they have to exclusively cater to this rational way of conveying the message, of convincing people. And I think that by doing so, they lose a lot of what I think, or what at least I have, what at least my sense of what flying is about. Again, it's like, and it's in this whole like commercial airliner logic. Like, yeah, obviously, if you step in a commercial airplane, you fly from, let's say, Berlin, because I live in Germany. Let's say if you fly from Berlin to whatever, Paris or London. Let's take London, for example. It's a tool, right? It's a tool you use. It's like you can get there from A to B very quickly. You can get there much more quickly than you could per train or per car or whatever. So there is a rational argument to be made for that, and that's fine. That's perfectly fine with me. But I think by assuming so much of this like implicit narrative infrastructure for PAVs, like personal aerial vehicles, flying cars, it already takes so much away from them. It already puts them in this niche, or in this, it's not really a niche because it isn't that small, but in the area of like commercial, like large scale, like plane stuff, like your usual airliner. It puts it exactly in the same spot. And I think that's actually a shame, because again, if you just think about it, like and this might be a bit idealistic, but if you think back when people first flew or first tried to fly, it seemed like a time of wonder and of, oh wow, we can do this new thing now, and oh, that's so cool, and have you seen this, oh, and there's this new design. And in a way, we seem to relive that in a way, because drone technology does that. It allows us to rediscover flight because it's accessible, because you can build your own drone and you can fly and all of that. But it on the one hand, it allows us to rediscover flight, but on the other hand, it's lacking, because at least in the narrative of PAVs, again, it lacks all of that. It lacks what I would say what made people fly in the first place. It wasn't, I just, again, and this is speculative, but I can't imagine that the Wright brothers got up one day and were like, yeah, like efficient flight, that's the thing, really getting safely from point A to point B, that's our thing. I can't imagine that could have been the case. I'd imagine it, or at least I'd like to imagine it somewhere like, man, flying, wouldn't it be cool if we could just fly like a bird? That would be so awesome. How cool would that feel? I imagine it to have gone something like that, and like it. I think it's a very human story in a way. If we think about cars, we think about race cars and all of that. It's about fun. It's about the excitement, and this whole discourse around PAVs kind of eliminates that. And I think it's a shame. And this is why, personally and from a research perspective, I appreciate initiatives that try to bridge this gap and that kind of try to bring this back, bring excitement back, and bring entertainment in a way back And one example, and there are many examples for this obviously, but one example for this is Airspeeder, which they basically, and again there are more companies who do that, but they basically, their idea is to create like a Formula One of the skies, like to make it like a racing thing. And like you can say plenty of things like, it's not safe and this is gonna be terrible, and and you're probably right about this, but what you gotta appreciate about those is that they try to bridge this gap, and they try to actually add something and to make it more intuitively not just acceptable, but you would want that. You would, if you saw, like, again, and I'm referring back to these commercials of, again, Airbus or whomever, right? If you look at them, it's like, it looks fine and it looks okay, and I guess okay, your arguments make sense. But if you see some people flying or racing, even, it makes your hair on your arms and like basically all over your body, makes your hair stand up, right? And it gives you this feeling of excitement and of, oh, that's cool, that's so cool, right? So, and this is basically what I would like to conclude with here is, just as an example of this bringing together drone making spaces. I think that there is, I am aware that there is a movement towards integrating more, let's say, more non-commercial actors, like also do-it-yourself, more do-it-yourself inspired people who could also like bring something in, more established corporations. And they do that, and I appreciate that. But one thing they don't do yet is they are so set in their ways of selling this PAV dream as a rational dream. And it might be a rational dream, but it's not only that. It's also a very irrational dream, and it's also something that you don't even have to explain. You don't have to explain why just flying is awesome. I mean, you look outside and you see a bird fly and you're just like, oh, that's kind of cool, right? Why can't I do that? So it's like, I wonder why there is so little, why they use that so little, and why they play with that so little, aside obviously from, as I mentioned before, like for example Airspeeder, like corporations who put an explicit focus on that. But I wonder when, maybe, or if we're ever gonna see like let's say proper flying cars, in the sense that they have a business case that actually build on that, and that integrate this aspect, and kind of get this, they get this, flying is cool, and get away from this over rationalized logic. I would like that. And this is, for example, just again one little introduction to what I'm doing, but this is what I mean when I say intersecting drone making spaces. I want to bring these together. I want to conflict logics in a way of making drones, and I want to see something new, and I want to see something exciting, and something that's that's disruptive, and that's that's kind of, that puts a different spin on things. And there are so many approaches towards making drones, and towards, like, again, flying drones, all of that still out there, already out there. But it's like, I think that in this intersection, or in this opportunity to bring these together, and to kind of squeeze something out of there, and to enrich established products, or products that are in development right now, this way, there's really something to that. And maybe the next time, or if you haven't seen one yet, then maybe we will, after listening to this, you might just want to have a look at it. But maybe the next time when you look at it like a commercial, or like, it's more like a fictional commercial, because those things aren't reality yet, but if you look at a fictional commercial from whomever, like from Airbus or whomever, think about it, and think about, like, what are they telling? What kind of story are they telling? And how different could the story be? And I don't want you to necessarily be like, it could be racing or whatever. No, that's one idea, that's one perspective on it. But it could also be something like, what if it wasn't on demand? What if you could actually pull it out of your own garage? And what if you actually sold it instead of renting it? What would that mean? How would that influence what you saw in it? Maybe it would be something like a motorcycle, right? Something you would just get in, or get on rather, to have fun, to enjoy yourself, and not to get efficiently from point A to point B without traffic jams, whatever, right? So that's basically that's what I'm all about. This is what hopefully this channel kind of will be about. And I also have some more practical examples, but I thought as a little introduction, I thought to give you a more general insight. So if you stuck around up to this point, I thank you for your attention. And I mean, as usual, you can obviously like, favorite, subscribe, ring the bell, all that good stuff. If you want to hear more. I have some other interesting stuff coming up for you, more hands-on, more practical, because I also like to build my own drones. But you will see more of that soon. So, also, if you want to check out my Discord, check out my Twitter, check out whatever. I might even have a TikTok by then. I think I'm already too old for that, but whatever. We will try that out. So, have a great day. I hope you enjoyed it.